Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Always happens if I turn the sound down on one device and not the other. Good afternoon and welcome to webinar number 4, which is making the most of GSuite, or as it's now known, Google Workspace for Education. Now, it's just myself and James today. So if you've not met us before, then my name is Sarah and I am the project coordinator for the EdTech demo program here at Elizabeth Woodville.
And I'm James Crowhurst, and I'm the lead EdTech practitioner at Elizabeth Woodville. And just to let you know that we are allowed to be on the same screen as we are married, and we are on the same bubble. So obviously we do have to make you aware of that particular fact.
So as we said before, we're part of the EdTech demonstrator program. Now we have some quite good news. The EdTech programme has been extended until April 2022. We don't have the exact details just yet on how you can sign or re-sign up if you've been with us before. If you want to be part of the programme from April this year all the way through to April next year, then drop us an email and then we could be in touch when we have a little bit more information. As always on our webinars, if you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. As you noticed earlier with the horrible sound interference, we've got 2 screens going on, so I'll be able to monitor the chat or pop them in questions at the bottom and we can address them as we go along or at the end.
Okay, so for just in case any of you aren't sure, we'll just talk about what is Google Workspace for Education. So Google Workspace for Education is the new name for GSuite for Education, and we'll talk about the new bits in a minute. We'll give you a bit of an update on here. And basically, all that Google Workspace for Education is, it's just a collective name for all of the apps that are available to you through Google that give you the whole Google experience of using the Google products like Gmail, Google Docs, Jamboard, Google Meet, Google Classroom, which might be how most of you have come across Google in the first place. And that's just the collective name for it all. So as I mentioned, Google Workspace for Education is the new name, and there are some updates. So we've just got a little screenshot for you here from Google directly. I know it's a little bit small. It's the best we could get from Google, unfortunately, at this stage, because all this information only came out at February half term. They did a little announcement around the world about the changes that they are making. The good news is that everything that you have now is all staying as it is. Nothing's changing. So if you've got the free version, it's remaining free. All the apps that you've got available to you now are still available to you. They are still going to be updating all of those apps. Everything's all still going to be carrying on as it is now. And so for most of you, this is just a name change and that's it. However, some of you might be aware that there is a product called G Suite Enterprise for Education. So that was the old paid-for version of G Suite, and that's now been rebranded to become Google Workspace for Education Plus, and that's what we can see here on the right-hand side of the screen. So that basically gives you everything that's available to you from Google at the maximum levels that you can have it. So you get different live streaming features in Google Meet. You get some syncing tools with Google Classroom. You get some some enhanced security features. The security features that are in the free version are absolutely fine, but you get enhanced security features and better logs and audits that you can look at. But then they've listened to teachers who have said, look, we don't want to pay for Google Workspace for Education Plus, as it's now known. We want to just have a few of these features. So they've brought out Google Workspace for Education Standard, which is a per student license, and that gives you the enhanced security features, plus obviously everything that you've currently got in the fundamentals program. And then they've also brought out a teaching and learning upgrade, as they call it, which is just for the teacher. So if you've got a teacher who wants to do more with Google and wants to use more facilities, especially to do with Google Meet and Google Classroom, then there's the teaching and learning upgrade that's available to them. And that's a per license basis per teacher. And you don't have to license all teachers. You can license just one teacher if you want, or you can license all your teachers. It's entirely kind of up to you on how you want that to work. So we just wanted to make you aware of those updates on there. There's loads of new features coming to Google as well. And they announced some of those as well. There's going to be some updates coming to Google Classroom as well in there. So there's part of the teaching and learning upgrade. I know this is the paid part of it. Is going to be a Google Classroom add-ons section as well, which sounds like it might be quite exciting as well, and might entice some of you to actually pay for the license upgrade. But at the moment, we've got no intention of actually paying for any of it. We're planning on staying with the free version at the moment. Obviously, once they start launching things and we look at them a bit more in depth, and we might decide, oh yeah, we might want to have the teaching and learning upgrade, or we might just decide to stay with the free one. But at the moment, we've said we don't need these bits. We're just going to stay with the free one. But we just wanted to make you aware of them in here as well, because I think you might start hearing a bit more about them as throughout the time as it goes on. So I'm just going to hand back to Sarah.
So how do we access all of these Google apps? There's a few ways. Go to the 9 dots, the waffle menu in any Google product, and it comes up down the side. Or you can go direct to the web address itself. So docs.google.com, mail.google.com. It's the same for every product. Or if you want to jump straight into a brand new doc, sheets, slides, Meet, Jamboard, you can do .new. So docs.new, sheets.new, etc. And it takes you straight into a blank, brand new one, ready to work on. Right, so we're not going to spend an awful lot of time in depth for every Google product, but what we'd like to do is show you some of the features that we like and things that we use the most. So we're going to jump into Google Docs first.
Yeah, well, we're going to take you through a few different tools. You might be able to see from some of my tabs at the top. We're going to go into Docs, Slides, Sheets, Jamboard, and Google Drive in particular. But we're also going to talk about some of the other tools as well a bit later. But to start off with, let's go into Google Docs. So we've got Google Docs open here. This is how it loads up at the start. You can just get a blank one by pressing the blank button over here. There are lots of templates available for you as well in here that you can look through in the template gallery, and there's all your recent documents at the bottom. If we go into a blank one, we're just going to pick up on a few tools because, to be honest, it's very similar to using Microsoft Word. All like the icons and the familiar tools are there. It's just the fact that this is online on Google's version, and they call it Google Docs. So one of the first things we're going to look at is inserting word art. When we first started using Google Docs, that was one of the key things that we kind of felt we were missing, was word art. And it is actually possible in Google Docs, but it's kind of hidden away. So we're just going to have a quick look at that by going to the Insert menu at the top. And when you go into Insert, there's a tool here called Drawing. So when you select Drawing, you can choose a new drawing. And this gives you some tools now along the top to be able to start creating a drawing within Google Docs. So if we go to Actions on the left-hand side, there's an option here that says Word Art. And if we press Word Art, it now asks us, what do we want to turn into a word? So let's actually take the word Google, being as this is a webinar all about Google. So if I press the enter button, you can see now it's put it in there in a word art kind of version, and we've got some tools along the top that we can play with. So we can change the colors in there. We can change the line colors as well. We can change the thickness of the lines. You can change your fonts, and you've got all of Google's fonts to be able to play with in there as well. So you can press the more fonts button at the top in there and be able to search for more fonts if you wanted to. I'm not going to go through that because there's about 1,000 fonts that you can look for. Let's just choose this one. So yeah, there's a few different tools you can put in there. When you're finished making your word art, you can press save and close, and it adds it in as if it's an image. So now you can resize it and you can change its text wrapping features and things like that down there at the bottom as well. So that's one of the things that we wanted to highlight is the ability to insert word art into Google. Another nice little feature that we really like about the Google is when you go to insert again, but this time if we look at images, you can see there's so many different ways that we can insert images. And one of the really nice ones we really like is searching the web. So if we press search the web, it actually loads up Google Images on the right hand side, and we can search in here. Now we've got a couple of dogs and we really like dogs, so I'm going to search for dog to bring that up in here, and we can find a dog on there to actually put on our screen. So all we need to do is click on the dog or a picture, should I say, and we're just going to drag it across, and we can let go and it will insert it for us. So that's how we can add an image on there, and then we can just click on that image and resize it just like I did with the word art. So we can make it a bit smaller if we want to. We can use the wrap text to tell it what we want it to do, and then you can just drag it as well. So you can drag it into different positions, which is really nice. A really nice feature for you to use on there.
And when you use that particular feature, the great thing about it is that all the images are the correct usage rights. So you have the right to use them. So it's not like going to Google and then selecting through the advanced features to find Creative Commons licenses or anything like that. They're all filtered for the correct usage down the side.
One of the other tools that we really like, and one of the ways we really use this a lot, is through sharing. So at the top right, there's the share button. So one of the great features of Google Docs, and one of the things that attracted us to it right at the start, and I'm talking like 7 years ago, is the fact that you can press the share button. And when you press that share button, you do have to name the document first. So that's I'm a bit naughty there. I should have named that first. But if you name that and press save, now you can share it with another person. So if I put Sarah's email address in there, I can choose to notify her and send her a message if I want to. I can make her an editor, which means she has full editing rights in the document, or I can just make her a viewer, which means she can only see it, or a commentator, which means she can add comments to the document only. And then if I press send, Sarah gets an email, and now she will be able to come into this document and work on it at the same time. And you get a little the cursor will change color, so they get their own colored cursor, and you can see where their cursor is and what they're doing, and it comes in real time on to your screen, and whatever you do goes in real time on their screen. Works really nicely. All our teachers use it a lot for planning. And we use it a lot for all sorts of different things, actually. And we've started using it with the children as well. For example, if they're doing a play script, and you've got a group of children who are writing the play script, each child can write their own lines into their document. It works really well. They really enjoy it. Another brilliant feature that we really liked about Google Docs was the way it saves. So if you notice up here, it says last edit was 2 minutes ago. And that's because every time we make a change to our document, so if I come down underneath my dog picture and I write the word dog, you can see at the top now I've got last edit was seconds ago. because it's automatically saving all the time as I go along. So if I press that last edit was seconds ago, I can also see my edits. So now this is called version history. So in Google Docs, you get to see the version history for the whole of your document. And this is absolutely brilliant. Those times when children have opened a document and made it go blank for whatever reason, you can get their work back. It is really handy. And likewise, if there is a sharing going on with the documents, then it's absolutely fine, because you can see who's done what to that document. So you can see here on the right hand side, it tells me today's edits. These are like snapshots with the different times on there. But if I press on the one for 3 minutes past 4, and you can now see I've got little mini snapshots for this particular saved version in there. So if I was to go down to, let's say, the 3:59 one, you can see in there it's talking about what I was doing with the word Google. So it's not even got the image on there. If I go on the one before, it's probably got the image on there. If we go right back to the beginning, it's a blank document. So if we needed to restore back a different version for whatever reason, we can press this restore this version button. So let's say, let's restore it back to this just so you can see. If we press restore this version, press restore, and now our document has gone back. So the word dog has basically gone to the bottom, and I think my picture's slightly bigger as well from the original one. So you can quickly see how you can very easily, A, see that your document is saved as you're going along, and B, how you can get in and see a version history for your document and be able to pull things back and sort them out if needed, which we find to be really useful.
Amazing. And when children are working together, because when they're in that collaborative feature, which is so lovely, and in Key Stage 2, I remember doing some great work where pupils were working together, but there's sometimes squabbles, and people have done things apparently and you don't know what's going on, and you can just click a button and sort it all out for them. And sometimes they think you're magic, because when their work disappears and you get it back up, they're like, oh, it's just brilliant. And I'm like, I love those moments when they're absolutely convinced that all their work's disappeared, and then you go, but it's not, and it reappears. And yeah, it's really good fun.
So one of the things earlier on, when I pressed the share button, it asked me to name my document. If I hadn't, at the top left up here, you can see it says dog, because that's what I named it. If I needed to rename my document, I could click in there and give it a new name. So let's just call it dog demo, for example. You can see as well, it's telling me it's saving this in my drive. So if I just click off of that, it's now renamed it and saved it. But there's still a little folder here with an arrow, and that allows me to move it into a different folder location within my Google Drive. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Google Drive in a minute, and we'll be able to see this document in there as well in a minute. If I press move, you can see I've got different locations where I could put it in my random files in there. This isn't an account that we use that much. It's more of a demonstration account, so that's why it's kind of random in there. But that's how you can name it and change the file location. How you can restore the version history, and just to do with the inserting of the images and word art in there. One of the other features, and some of you might be already using this with Google Classroom, because Google Docs kind of loads up into Google Classroom if you're using a document, is using the commenting tools. But you don't just have to use the commenting tools within Google Docs. You can use the commenting tools directly here. So if you want to comment on something, you can click on the thing you want to comment on. So if I want to comment on Google, I can click on that, and then I can go up to the top, and I should be able to insert a comment, and it's not there. I love it when it does that to me, because they've changed it all. That's the only tiny little thing that, because they're bringing out some updates, there are a few changes. They've got the new comment tool directly built into here now. So if I want to comment on something, and you notice it's coming up on the side as well, so I can comment on things. So I can click on the little blue box and I can write in a comment. So this could be like beforehand, you were sending comments to teachers, but now we can be sending comments to each other. So teachers and students were commenting between each other on a document, but now it can be actually where you are commenting on a plan, say, or something like that. You can send comments to each other there as well. So that's really useful. So I think we've gone over quite a few things about Google Docs in there now. So we'll just jump into Google Slides, and you'll very quickly see that Google Slides is very similar to Google Docs as well.
So the absolute beauty of the Google products is that once you know one, you pretty much know all of them. So they do similar things. So here we are in Google Slides. Again, title at the top if you want to rename it, and that lovely share button where you can collaborate in real time. So when we make all our webinar presentations, there's about 5 of us in here all at once, and we're all working together on them normally. And we can see each other's work, and they can see your work, and then nothing is overwritten, which was an absolute dream, because I remember before working with colleagues, and if I hadn't saved my version first and it got lost, and they'd saved over mine. So this is all in real time, same as Docs as usual.
Yeah, it looks exactly like PowerPoint. You could choose a theme on the side. I'm just going to close that off just to make it a bit bigger for you. You've still got the insert button as well, like you had in Google Docs, so you can insert your image in exactly the same way. Slightly different feature, it doesn't say drawing in this one. You actually got word art directly in it, so you can actually draw it directly into your presentation, and you've got the shapes, so you can put shapes straight into your presentation as well. When you've made edits, so if we just quickly, let's just say hello on there, you can see that you've got your last edit was say seconds ago again in there. You've got background tools, and notice you've got the comment option in here as well, so you can do your commenting. So it's all very similar. There's nothing new in here to show you there's any difference to what we've got in Google Docs. We have got the little purple circle with the white M on it up here. This is actually an add-on, and we're going to talk a bit more about add-ons in a minute, called Moat. And this does allow me to record my voice and put my voice into Google Slides. So that's what that purple M is. So you might not see that on yours up there on your one. So now if we jump into Google Sheets, you'll notice again very similar. So again, you've got all the template options. You can load up your old ones in there.
We've been using ours for staff lateral flow testing. That's very helpful because you can share it with all your staff. So all your staff can come in and put in their details, which is great. So
if you've used Excel, then you'll see that it looks very similar. You can still do formulas in it. You can create graphs. You can do all those sorts of things. We're just going to throw in a very randomized numbers just to pretend there's some data in there, because there's a really nice tool that we would like to show you in Google Sheets. And actually, this tool is available in Slides and Docs, but it's not quite the same. It's not as good as what it does in Google Sheets. So if we highlight our data we've just put in here, if we go down to the bottom right, there's this little explore button. So it's like the square with the white star on it. And if we press on that, it comes up and it gives us lots of like quick tools for that data. So very quickly there, you see it's summed up our data. And if we want that into our Google Sheet document, all we need to do is just drag it, decide where we want it to go, and drop it. And then it creates the formula for us, puts it all in. And you can see as well on the right hand side, we've got the average option, we've got the min number, the max number. Below that, we've got this graph. So we can just drag graphs straight in as well. So very quickly, we can create graphs of our data and put it in there and analyze our data as well. Because if you look just below the graph on the right-hand side in analysis, it tells us that 7 was the highest value for series 1, because obviously we've not named it, it's calling it series 1. But if we'd named it, it would give it a name in there as well. So it's telling us what the highest value is. So again, you're not having to do any thinking or look at anything. It's doing it all for you. And you see there's different options as well. So you've got like the pie chart in there, you've got line graphs, all depending on the type of data you've got and how you want to use it. But our teachers absolutely love this Explore tool because they can
it's quick.
Get data so quickly and analyze data so quickly for anything that they've done. If they've done something in Google Forms, they can export it into Google Sheets, use this Explore tool and start pulling out graphs and things really quickly. But
in terms of whole school things, this has been amazing. So a few years ago, we had a big sports day and we wanted all the teams from across the school. So we shared one big sheets and everybody put all of their information into sheets. We could all access it. We could all write on it at the same time. We could all look at what other people had done. And it was just fantastic for a whole school collaboration. It was just so easy to use.
One of the extra features of Sheets, so you've still got the edit history, the version history at the top, but you also have a cell history. So let's say if this number was wrong, let's say we change that number to another number, not only does it automatically change everything for us, because that's how it works with formulas and graphs and everything in there, but now if I right click on this cell, you can also see here straight away, we've got this option here called Show Edit History. And you can actually see the history right in to that particular cell. So you can see that it tells me that I replaced 6 with 4 within that cell, which is really useful. And if I press the arrow, I can go and see the previous edit, which just tells me I added the number 6 in there. So you can see this cell history as well as being able to restore a previous version in there. Unfortunately, you can't restore that history from that. It just allows you to view it in there. But it's really helpful for you to be able to look back over numbers. Or if you accidentally typed over something in a cell, oh no, what was that number? You could just, you don't have to go all the way up to the last edit was. You could just right click, show edit history, see what it was straight in there, go, oh yeah, that's what it was. And then just go and type it in yourself. So that's really useful. Tool in there as well. Otherwise, it's the same as using docs and slides. So you can name it at the top. You've got the move options, and that sharing features, as Sarah's already mentioned, are really powerful in there as well, for being able to just gather information from the whole school and to allow people to work on things together. No longer do you have to see if someone's opened the Excel document, because it doesn't matter who's in this document. If you've got 100 staff, all 100 staff could be in this document at the same time. It wouldn't matter. It might be a bit of a collaboration nightmare trying to find out who's doing what, but it wouldn't matter. Google would let you do that. So we've gone through Google Docs, Google Slides, and Google Sheets. And the next product that we would like to talk about is Google Jamboard. Now, this might be a new product to some of you, or some of you might have come across it before. It doesn't matter. But basically, Google Jamboard is a whiteboard application that Google have created. They've actually got an interactive whiteboard, which they call a Jamboard, and that's how this all started. I think it was about 4 to 5 years ago now, but it's really developed as an online whiteboard space. And obviously, because it's Google and it's part of your Google Workspace for Education, it is actually working in the same way with all the same features. So I'm just going to jump into Google Jamboard now. So you can see here, I've got a few historical ones from demoing things and stuff in there. But if I go down to the bottom and press the plus, I can get a new jam, as they call it. We're all going to like jam after we've looked at this. So this is our Jamboard, and on here, this is our whiteboard that we can work on. So if you want to, you can set a background, and nice features. It is actually built for education in mind. So you can put lines on there if you want to. You've got graph paper. You can add your own if you wanted to as well. I'm just going to go back to the default just for the purpose of now. Then down on the left hand side, you've got several tools that allow you to add things in. So you've got the standard pen tool, which allows you to draw with different types of pens. So if you click on it once to select it, you click on it again for it to pop out. And you've got the different colors that are in there. And then if you go down, you've got the eraser tool, and you've got an arrow tool, which just basically is your selection and moving things around. You can add in sticky notes. We really like the sticky notes feature, because like docs, sheets and slides, you can collaborate on this. So you've got that share button at the top right hand corner again. So you can share this with colleagues, and then you can all work through the Jamboard together and add your own notes to it and ideas to it. And this has worked really well for staff meetings through a Google Meet session. And then they've got the Jamboard on there, and staff are able to add on their own sticky notes with their own ideas, and everyone can collaborate all in that same space and work on it. But it's not a finalized document. It's more of a
it's a working board.
Working board that they're working on. We've been using this. Something to say about Jamboard, and all the Google apps, by the way, work on any device. So we've been using Jamboard with the Jamboard app on our iPads, connected to our Google Meet lessons, and when we were doing the live lessons, to use that as a whiteboard. So the teachers were able to show like the working out of a maths problem and introduce a maths concept by using this as that whiteboard space in there. Because you've got all that the basic standard features that you'd expect to be able to do. So you've got you can draw squares and triangles and things like that in there as well. And you have got a normal text box feature as well, which just allows you to click and type as well if you wanted to. If you've already created a Jamboard and you wanted to highlight certain things to people, there is the laser pointer at the bottom as well, which kind of just shows you. And you can highlight kind of things with the laser pointer, which works really nicely in there as well. There is the ability as well to create several pages. So we're on page 1 of 1, but if we press the arrow, we'd create another page. So a bit like how you would with a presentation. So that would allow you for flowing through it and working on it together. This works really nicely from the children's point of view as well. So
mood boards,
brilliant for mood boards with the children. So yeah, we're starting to try and get the children to think a bit more about that and kind of take control of their own research within their learning. And these mood boards work really well, where they can go and do that kind of research and just note things down in a Jamboard to come back to later, or if they were designing a project of some sort, they can go off and they can find things and stick them in, or take photos, or just write things down. So great for DT, art projects, things like that, to just get ideas and put things down on there. Works really well from both points of view. And then when the children are finished, of course, they can share it. They can either share it directly back to you, or they could put it into Google, share it to Google Classroom, different things like that as well. There is the 3 dots here as well, which allow you on here to save it in different ways. So you can download a Jamboard as a PDF, for example, when you've finished, or you can use it, you can just save it as an image if you wanted to as well. I just noticed that Kaylee said that she's using it a lot as well with small groups within the class. So each group has a slide, and then they can share everyone's ideas quickly on the class board together without slides getting too crowded, which is absolutely brilliant. Perfect idea. Brilliant way of doing it. It is really useful. And I think as you start to use it, you would find... You
just find more and more ways.
Yeah, that you'll find there's different ways of doing it. And you go, oh, I could do that with Jamboard.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually in a different school yesterday afternoon, not at Elizabeth Woodville, and I overheard their staff meeting just briefly, and they were using Jamboard in their staff meeting, and I was like, yes, because they were using it after I'd shown them how to use it, and it was brilliant. It was really good. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's Jamboard in there. Another, if we move on, there are plenty of other apps as well.
So let's have a little look at these. So first of all, we've got Google Forms, which is a great way to make kind of quizzes and things to give to parents and students, really. We did a Google Forms webinar just a few weeks ago, so please do check that out because there's lots more information on there about how to use Google Forms. We talk about how to make them, and then we had a teacher on called Amy who was using them in a really wide variety of ways in her classroom. And then we've got Google Calendar, which you can share your calendar. So you can have a staff calendar, a trolley calendar. But one thing we have found really, really fantastic on calendars is the inbuilt appointment slots that you can make. So, for example, parents can log on and choose a slot to meet with you, maybe for parents' evening, do it that way, or for we use them for showing new parents around, new EYFS parents. They can choose a slot, and then that slot automatically disappears, so another parent can't come along and take it. And that would be really handy as well for booking out trolleys of equipment like iPads and Chromebooks and things like that. Google Sites is for making your own websites, or actually in Key Stage 2, getting your children to make their own websites. Works really, really well in Key Stage 2. We've seen a lot of success there. So do go and have a look at that one.
It's just a drag and drop element really of building things, so it is really easy. They can drag in a text block and write in some text. They can drag in an image, and they can position them around with different layouts. And it helps the children to understand how a web page is built, which is part of the ICT curriculum as well. And it's a great way for them to present in different ways as well.
Now, Google Keep is a note-taking app that integrates with other Google products, but you can share your notes, again, across multiple people. Now, we have a very non-educational example of this, is that our shopping list is on Google Keep. So it's shared between myself, James, and 2 children. So anybody who can think of something that needs to go on the shopping list just pops it on, shares between all of us, and then you can tick them off as you go around the store, because you can do tick boxes, and it just in real time moves it to the got section underneath. So yeah, have a look at Google Keep. There's really good things to do on that.
So yeah, again, Google Keep uses the same features that you've got within the Google apps, where you can do that sharing. So a great way if you've got children, from an educational example now, a great way if you've got children who are researching a topic again, or trying to come up with some concepts and ideas, and they want to share some notes about what they're going to do on it together, and they can do it all in Google Keep at the same time, and then they can use that with their presentation, because they can pull it up on the side within Google Slides, and they can drag things across from it, which is really helpful.
Or to-do lists between staff. Like we used to have a Year 5 to-do list, and all those jobs. This needs photocopying. This display needs to go up, and people can tick it off as they came to it. And then Google Drawings. So Google Drawings is just a drawing tool, so you can create drawings through shapes and different tools all built into that. Okay. So
as well, the Google Drawings, we've kind of shown you a little bit of that, because
in Docs,
what we opened up in Docs was a slimmed down version of Google Drawings. The actual main app has a lot more that you can do in it, but you get that slimmed down version in Google Docs, which is really helpful. So that's Google's own drawing platform, which I don't think many people really are aware of, because it's not something that's kind of highlighted or talked about that much in there.
Popular.
There are other apps as well that Google has, but these are the ones that we tend to use, along with the Docs, Sheets and Slides and Jamboard. And then, of course, the one that we haven't mentioned so far is Google Drive. And Google Drive is the location where you can share all of your files. And actually, this is part of what attracted us to Google in the first place about 7 years ago, when we started looking at how we can share our files more effectively. So Google Drive is that place in the cloud, very fast-moving clouds today, where we can share, store all of our work. It's all secure. So it's your own data. People from Google can't go and look at it or anything like that. It's your data that's in there. It's secure to you with your login. There's two parts to Google Drive. You've got My Drive, and more recently, over the last few years, they've introduced shared drives. First, they called them team drives, but then they've changed the name now to shared drives. So shared drives are drives just like how you have on your server, where you might have, when you go into File Explorer, like the S drive, which says staff shared, or they might have a P drive or a H drive. A lot of schools seem to have a H drive for Sims and things like that. So that's what these shared drives are, but they all sit in the Google platform on the Google Drive, and whoever's like the owner of the shared drives can choose who can have access. So you don't need really IT admin to come and give access to different people. It can all be done through whoever creates the shared drives. And also the joy is that like the year 5 team can create a shared drive amongst everyone in the year 5 team. They could just put all their files in it. They don't need anyone to go and create that for them and give it access to them. SLT, obviously really important that it's one of the ways that they can use it with the shared drives for an SLT point of view. In fact, I also know a school that use it for their governors. So they've got a governor's shared drive, and all governors have got a Google login for their school, and they're able to go into that shared drive to be able to share governor documents. So again, really, really useful and really powerful way of doing things. There's 2 ways that you can access your Google Drive. So you can access your Google Drive on the web by going to drive.google.com, and we're going to have a little look at that in a minute. But you can also access it through the Google Drive desktop app. And this desktop app is really powerful, because basically what it does is it creates a drive in your File Explorer that looks like this. You see where we've got our arrow pointing on the right, it says Google Drive. It creates that folder there, but it's not downloaded all of your documents onto your desktop or your laptop. What it does is when you go into Google Drive, you can browse all of your documents. You can see them all there. When you want a document and you double click it to open it, like you normally would if you're working on your laptop, it will download it for you at that moment in time and then allow you to work on it. And every time you save it, it's re-uploading it back to your Google Drive for you automatically. It basically creates that interface between your laptop or MacBook, if you're using it on the Mac, because it works on a Mac as well, and the Google Drive cloud without having to go through drive.google.com. It's a really, we use it on all of our machines. We find it to be really powerful, and teachers, basically, to them, it's just as if the files are on their desktop. If they've got really important files that they couldn't be without, and if like the internet completely died, there is the ability for them to mark those files as offline as well. So they can right click on the file and do mark as offline in there. But what it's going to briefly do is we're going to jump into My Drive. And while we're in My Drive as well, we're also going to look at converting to Google format as well. So we'll have a look at this while we're in there as well. And we'll talk about why we would do that as well. So this is My Drive in here. As I mentioned earlier, a little bit messy because it's all kind of random things that are in there. It's not a properly used drive. But we've got our folders at the top and we've got our files down here. And the Google Drive can have all kinds of documents. It doesn't matter if it's a Word document. It doesn't matter if it's a Pages document from a Mac. Doesn't matter if it's a PDF, doesn't matter if it's an image or a video or whatever. It can be anything, a music file, anything you like. They can all be stored in here. And earlier we showed you how you could share within Google Docs or Slides, but you can actually share directly within your Drive as well. So we've got a dog file. Here's one I made earlier, dog file from a previous demonstration. And if I right click on that, then you can see we've got the share facility at the top up there as well. So by right clicking on it, you can share it and you can download it, you can rename it. There's lots of different things you can do with that document in there. And if you look on the left hand side, you can see I'm in my drive, but then we've also got shared drives. So that's where my shared drives are. So if I click on shared drives, you can see I've got only a couple of shared drives in here, because again, like I said, it's not a proper account in there. But if I go into my demo shared drive, I've got nothing in it, but you can see it's probably shared between me and Sarah. Yeah, because I was doing a demonstration with that one for someone. So yeah, you've got the ability there to obviously be able to put any files that you want in there to be able to share them with each other. And again, it is really powerful. So as I mentioned earlier as well, we can look at how you can convert Word documents to Google Docs or PowerPoints to Google Slides. And if you've done any training with us, we've probably already shown you this. And one of the main reasons we suggest that you look at doing this is for those sharing capabilities. So being able to share a document and work together collaboratively on a document is really the big part of Google, and it makes it really powerful. And in Google Classroom, when you want to share a document with the children, it's much easier for the child, which means you're much more likely to get work back from them if the document is in a Google format. So I just pick up on my son as an example. His school used Google Classroom. He's got a Chromebook, but the teacher put on a PowerPoint, and he wasn't able to interact or look at that PowerPoint properly because it hadn't been converted to Google Slides because he was on a Chromebook. So if you're using Google Classroom, having that, converting it to the Google's format just makes it much more efficient as well for the child point of view, because they can just click on the document, it opens up straight away on the internet, and they can work on it. In fact, I've even heard of children using their PlayStation or Xbox to do their work on Google Classroom, because it is web-based. They can just load it up and get on with it, which is, again, is really powerful. So to be able to convert, I've got a demo document over here. It's a Word document. So you can see it's got the blue box with the white W in it, which is telling me it's a Word document. Whereas a Google Docs document, you see, it's just got the white lines with the blue square. If I double click my demo document, it loads up, and you can see up here it's showing it's a .docx, which is telling me it's Microsoft Word format. And all I do is go to File and Save as Google Docs. And now that's made that into a Google Docs document. So now I've got all the Google Docs features and tools to use it. Normally, it converts perfectly. We have had a few instances ourselves where if it's a document that is full of like text boxes and images and real highly formatted, like I'd call it extreme formatting, then some of the formatting can go a little bit skew with on the conversion. Nothing we've not been able to sort out just by moving things around, but just a word of caution, just to check the document again first. So yeah, so that's the Google Drive element of things in there. And that's just to remind you how we could do the conversion in there. So if we move on, the last thing that we just wanted to mention to you about is the Google Workspace Marketplace. I imagine not many of you have probably heard of this, but the Google Workspace Marketplace is a way that you can get add-ons for your Google products. So in Docs, Sheets, Slides, Google Forms, there is the ability to go to the add-ons and press Get Add-ons, and it will give you the add-ons for that particular product. So, for example, in Google Forms, you can download like a timer to put onto your quizzes and things like that as an add-on. However, if you just search Google for Google Workspace Marketplace, it brings up the whole Google Workspace Marketplace, and you can go in there and look at the Google Workspace add-ons for your Google products. So that could be for Google Docs, Google Slides, could be for Google Drive even, or it could be a completely separate package that just integrates with Google Drive to allow you to save and open files. So we used a PDF application called Lumin PDF, and we searched for that in Google Workspace Marketplace. And one of the good things about Google Workspace Marketplace is it can be managed by the admin as well. So as an admin, we went in and we chose Lumin PDF, and we assigned it to everyone through Google Workspace Marketplace and made it available to everyone, which allowed children to be able to edit PDFs within Google Classroom. You can get paid versions of Google Workspace Marketplace apps. Some of them are free as well. It's just a really good way of enhancing and kind of like this your next phase of using the GSuite or Google Workspace as it's now known products. There are also some extra Google products that you can add in. So like SketchUp is one of them. So SketchUp is a drawing tool which is way beyond what Google Drawings is. It's like a CAD drawing tool, and again, you can do all of that online, but you have to enable it through the Google Workspace Marketplace first. Okay.
That's a big roundup of everything Google. Please do come and join us for our next webinar next week, Reshaping the Future, Platforms Beyond the Pandemic, because we don't know. Again, we still don't have a crystal ball. Your platforms might need to be used in a remote learning capacity again. We just don't know. But if they don't, what are you going to do with them? There's ways we can integrate them into the classroom. So come and join us next Wednesday, the 17th of March at 3:45 for that one. And don't forget, the EdTech demo program is extended. It's been extended till next April. And if you want to join up or rejoin up for the year from this coming April to next April, do get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. And you can find us on Twitter. So our Twitter handle is here, our EdTech Elizabeth Woodville account and our own account. And there's the email address if you want to contact us any more about the demo program. If you're watching and we've supported you before on the demo program, I'll probably be in touch in the next few weeks to tell you about how you can join us again for a whole year when we know more details. We don't know exactly what's happening yet, but when we've got more details, I will be able to let you know.
So if anyone's got any questions, as mentioned earlier, feel free to put them in the chat. There hasn't really been anything coming through in there. I hope we've not bombarded you with lots of things about it, but it's really useful, I think, for you to know about the other things that you can do with your Google products, and like opening your eyes to the whole kind of Google Workspace. I must get that into my head. Google Workspace for Education platform that you've now got available to you in there, and you can make use of it and make the most use of it, and start to be able to try all these different things out. By all means, don't go and say we must be doing everything on Google Slides now and things like that. Take your time. We still use PowerPoint and Word and stuff as well. It all works quite nicely together. We're quite happy with it. So thank you.
We'll just hang around for a minute to see if there's any questions.
I'll get rid of the infinite thing there.
Thank you again for joining us in what we know has been a really, really busy week. I hope all of your children have settled back in okay. we know it's been a bit of an interesting week. Thank you for coming to join us.
Yeah, thank you. Right, we'll disappear. If you have got any questions and you didn't want to put them in the chat, then by all means, please feel free to email us if you want to. And this, you will get a recording of this as well afterwards if you want to watch it back or show it to anyone else. We'll also put it on our YouTube channel as well. Thank you. Bye.